Welcome to the Geek podcast, where it's snowing on the first day of spring. I'm Void, and I'm here with my co-host, Beej.
It's not snowing, but it's raining here.
Okay,
So
well, we're in kind of similar boats. It's thinking about raining here, but it's just snowing. Yeah, today we're talking about this came out of last week's discussion. We were talking about work, and then we started talking about like projects and getting things started. So we wanted to talk about like starting new projects, because at this point, between the two of us, we've done that a lot, I would say.
Yeah. I mean, this is one of those projects that we did where it was, we had just kind of done it after a while of talking about it, where we want to do stuff like this. We tend to be those kinds of people who just do stuff, or at least I do.
Yeah, I think about it. I sometimes run into a little bit of a thinking about it for too long. I mean, at this point, usually if I've been thinking about it for a while, it's because I know I don't have the time right now. So I have to kind of push it off, because if I want to do it, I want to commit to it and like put enough effort into it to actually make progress. I don't want to put like 2 days in and be like excited, then not have the time to consistently follow through.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, at this point, between blogging and like all of the video and audio work I've done over the years, and like learning new skills and, teaching myself web development, and then doing all sorts of web dev and like digital marketing, like I've done so many different projects and skills and like learning new things that I kind of know how to approach it for myself anyway.
And that's kind of I'm between that right now, because I'm learning to be like that, where I want to do so many things. And over the past maybe 5-ish years, I've just, it's probably been longer than that, let me be honest, probably about the last 10 years specifically, I have just started things. I have done whatever, and I would be juggling like 5 different things at once. I'm like, okay, I'll start this, and I would set out these crazy goals for myself. Like I would write them out, and it would be these new projects and new novels, how many I wanted to get done over a summer. And I'm a fast writer, so I can get multiple like first drafts of novels written out that are really garbage. And then I need to do this website or videos and just these things around the house, and then I need to train for a marathon or a half marathon. And it's like, I found out that those kinds of things, those ideas that I have where it's always me wanting to start something, it was actually from bipolar 2. That was hypomania. And the more I talked to my counselor about it, one of the major things is doing so many things, being really excited about them and trying to juggle them all, then getting burned out and being unable to do any of them. And it was literally the cycle of my life as long as I could remember. And so the starting new projects is something that's really close to me, because I have to pay really close attention to it and where I'm putting my energy and how I'm putting my energy into it.
So I guess that's maybe a place to start, is talking about like capturing ideas, because I found that that's a huge piece of it. And there's something to be said for like, well, okay, I don't think people give themselves credit enough for like being able to have ideas, because everybody kind of has ideas a lot of the time. Like once you talk to people, almost everyone has some kind of idea of a project they want to do, or a thing they want to learn, or an approach they want to take. Like, not everybody has like a novel in them, but everybody has something. And part of it is that like when you have these thoughts, a lot of the time they're like fleeting, they're off the cuff or off the top of your head, and capturing them becomes really important. So like I know I've talked about all my lists before. One of my lists is just quick notes, and I literally have that for just like if I have something and it doesn't fit anywhere else in kind of my system for organizing stuff, I have that as a catch-all. So if I ever have like a new project idea, a lot of the times I'll throw them in there. I actually do have lists for projects, because that's how I am these days. Otherwise, my time is wasted. But if you don't, just knowing that you can capture it somewhere, and it doesn't have to be somewhere fancy. Like if you have a notebook you always carry with you, or if you like just the notes app on your phone, you don't have to have it organized into like subfolders and multiple lists that are nestled within other lists like I do. You can literally just have like a notepad on your phone or in person. Yeah. I mean, how do you deal with like capturing your ideas?
Pretty much the same way you do, actually. I end up using my phone a lot. Whenever I had an iPhone, I honestly just used the reminders. I liked being able to just put a quick, because of the way that the reminders worked, it really was just a straight up list. So I could see it really all the time, and then would just type them in there, anything that I had, and then I would try to transfer it either into Google Drive or a longer document, or write it down on like in one of my notebooks, which is also I'm kind of notebook obsessed, so I make sure that I keep hardbound notebooks all the time with me at some point, like one of them. Like I have Moleskine notebooks and Code and Quill notebooks, and I have that planner I've talked about 100 times just sitting around, where if I need something to jot an idea down, I've got it right there. Most of the time it's my phone, but when I'm working or something like that, I sometimes I don't want to grab my phone, and it's easier and works a lot better for me just to keep a notebook and a running tally, I guess.
Well, and like I didn't realize until I started blogging regularly, which again, I'm kind of out of the writing mode these days just due to how much time I have free, which is not a lot.
Yeah.
But when I was writing consistently for multiple years, I would have a really good thought or an idea, and I'd be like, oh yeah, I'll grab that in. Like I would say, I'll write about that later, and that would never work because I would forget it. And then I would go, oh, okay, I'll write it down in 10 minutes. Like just let me finish the thing I'm doing, and then I'll write it down. And even like a 5 or 10 minute span is all it takes sometimes to like knock it out of your brain, and then you can't get it back. So that was when I started realizing that when you have an idea, just stop and capture it right away. And it's usually just like a couple quick notes. It's like all of 10 seconds, you know?
Yeah, it might not even be that. Sometimes the longest time is opening up the app or finding it or pulling the phone out of your pocket. I've taken to using voice chat for that, where I'll use either whatever assistant is on my phone and just tell them to take a note or set a reminder for, say, 8 o'clock in the morning. And that way I know that I'm going to be around something at that time where I can write it down later. That's been really good for me, just to give a timed reminder when I'm just out and about and off the cuff, just to write it down. Or just say it before I can write it down.
Yeah, for sure. And then the next thing that we said, well, you kind of wrote this in here, so I wanted to know what you were thinking. You said don't let fear get in the way.
Like one of the things that really gets me, and I've had to really learn over the years, is that that for me, I'm afraid of failing at things. I've only ever done things I'm really good at, that I've never done any, like I won't let myself be a part of it if I'm bad at it, if I know that I'm going to fail, like if there's the potential to fail, or that I may not be just incredibly talented at it. So it's been a real challenge for me, I guess, to look at it and see that I am scared, and why I'm scared to start this new project, like the podcast. I hate my voice, Void. I cannot listen to it very well. Like it hurts me to listen to our episodes or anything like that, because I've always despised the way that I sound. And I know everybody hates the way they sound a little bit, but it's something I've never watched a play I've done. I don't really watch videos of myself. I don't like listening to our podcast very often. I'll listen to I hate it. So for me, podcasting was a real, like, I was scared to get out there because I was afraid of the people who would also like hate my voice. Like they would be like, oh, I'm not listening to this guy because he sounds like an idiot. And I sound like a dude. Anybody else who said anything to me was like, you sound like a guy. And it's just, I'm so self-conscious about things like that I'm afraid of not being something like where I sound like a jazz DJ. It's like, I don't have the radio voice, so I'm scared that somebody is not going to like that. And I don't know, it's just that idea of fear has always stopped me from doing things. So it's like when I have a project, it's like, if I fail, I fail. If somebody doesn't like it, then I can't do anything about that. Where the only thing that I really don't do because of fear are things that are like physically dangerous, that kind of stuff. But in terms of that, I'm trying to really push beyond that. I look at why I'm scared of wanting to start something, I guess.
That's interesting, because I don't really run into, when it comes to projects, right, starting new projects, I don't really run into the fear aspect, but I tend to overthink it. And like I said, kind of up front, it's more about the timing thing and knowing how much time something will take. But earlier on, before I was like better at this, it was a lot about like, if it wasn't all the way planned out, I didn't think that I could really start it until I had that plan in place. So it was like I needed to fully scope out the plan, which, you know, maybe some of that comes from working in like a marketing agency and then doing dev work and just knowing the scope of a project before you ever actually start the work on it. Whereas now if it's a personal side project like this, I'm less afraid. I just need like a plan to get started. I don't need a plan to see the end of it. Whereas before I used to be like that. Because like, you know, you and I, we adjust the podcast on the fly. Like, you know, season to season, we try to make changes. And even like week to week, if things aren't working or, you know, we're trying to hit different, not goals, but, you know, we just tweak it. We're not afraid to tweak it as we move along. I wouldn't have been able to do that like 10 years ago or probably 5 years ago. And, you know, part of it too is just having the idea and then waiting too long or overthinking it. And like, I love the podcast and the community that we have, but I also know that I had the idea for the podcast like 3 years before we started. And I think you probably did too.
Absolutely.
If we had started then, we would be, this podcast might like actually make us money to an extent that it could pay for itself, which again, if we could ever get there, that would be great. But podcast isn't going to become like a main income stream for either of us. That's not our goal.
Nope.
But if we had started it 3 years earlier, when we first had that idea, the chances of that are so much higher because not as many people were doing it at the time. And it's like, like right now, if you want to get into like, you know, being a YouTube personality or streaming or something like that, like all the power to you, go do it and have fun on your own as a side project. But the chances of you ever like making like actual money off of it are so slim. You know, you need to find the next thing or the next platform or the next whatever it is.
Yeah, I mean, that's one thing that I learned with the novels that I was doing, that whenever I started it, I started writing, goodness gracious, I can't remember when I started writing it now. Well, it came out in 2013. I did the Kickstarter in 2012. And one of the things that I learned at that point was that I was already late to that self-publishing ebook game, that there were already people who were incredibly established in there, and just how the market was changing from what was already established in the marketing world part of it. So it was something that I did well enough, but I came in too late still. Like, I did really well, and I was able to really use that money to have a down payment for my house. Not all of it, but it was a good portion of it. Like, it was awesome. But if I were to try to, I could never make a living off of it. And I tried to do everything I could but it was never possible. And people who, like you said, exactly like you said, where they want to get in because other people are doing it, that ship has sailed. It's like you have to do it because you like it. I mean, if you're streaming video games right now, it's because you like it. You're not going to be the next big Twitch star unless you find the next big game, unless you find Fortnite and get an audience before it blows up like it did. I mean, those are the people who win at that. And podcasting, like you said, the same way. If we had gotten on it before everybody and their brother started doing podcasts, then we may have been able to explode a little bit more. But we love doing this. Like, I really look forward to doing this, and I know that you do too. So that's not part of it. But I know that if we had started it earlier when we first thought about it, we wouldn't have approached it from the same mindset. And I don't even know to say that. Like, we wouldn't have approached it with this and had it be the same atmosphere that we have with this one. It probably wouldn't have been as laid back, I think.
Yeah, and like, I don't regret it. Like, we are where we are now, and it's awesome. And like, we like to do this every week, which is why we do it. But I just want to throw it out there because like, I know there are people who, you know, 10 years ago, like I was thinking along those same lines, right? Like, oh, I could like do something on YouTube and you could blow up big, but there are already people doing that. Maybe not 10 years ago, but you know what I mean? Like, if you're not there almost too early, it's basically too late. And so if you have an idea for a project or a completely new approach that nobody is doing, or there's like a new, you know, whatever, a new media stream or a new app or a new something, it's almost better to be early and be very rough than it is to be totally planned out and have everything go smooth, but be later to it. So that's just one of those things that over time, it's like, you know, just don't let don't be like I used to be and do that analysis paralysis. Like, just start. That's such a huge part of it, is to just get started.
What is that software development mentality of, what is it? Make it. It was something about making it and breaking it. I saw it in reference to Uber and their cars, like make new stuff, break new stuff, something like that maybe, where it was you get it to minimum viable product, and whatever happens after that, you can adjust on the fly after it's broken. And it's something that works for some things and doesn't for others. But for creative projects, I think it's absolutely the side project hustle, the side hustle stuff. You absolutely want to get it out there before you think it's ready. There is no way that getting out there earlier is going to be a bad thing, unless it is.
You'll get a lot of feedback too, and you'll get input. And it's the thing is, like, when you're first starting out, you don't have that many people looking at it, so almost all the input that you get is going to be positive or at least constructive. It's very rare, unless you're already an established personality, to put out a new thing and immediately have negative like comments on it or input, because it's hard to get noticed. Like, the visibility problem in all of the modern marketplaces is huge. So
it's real. The struggle is real, y'all.
It is. Like, the visibility struggle. And, I see it as a creator, like, for the podcast. Like, I would love for more people to listen. Like, and again, we're realistic at this point. We know what our audience is. We know the size of it, and we're totally happy with it. And so we like doing the podcast every week.
Tell all of your friends about us, though. Like, now, tell a friend. That's how it spreads. This is how, do it.
But the other thing is, like, if there were a way to get more visibility into it, I know there are other people who would like to listen to this podcast. I don't think we're ever going to blow up huge and, be making a living off of it. That's just not going to happen. But I would still like to grow the community as part of it. And just getting seen is such a hard part of it. So, go early, go sooner than you think you should, and it'll usually be the better option. It's very rare for that not to be the right option. And then the other thing, kind of the last point that we wanted to hit, is that consistency and regularity actually following through is such a huge part of it, because, everybody has ideas. Like I said, capturing them is important, but not everybody has follow through. And like this podcast, like committing to doing it every week, like that's the hard part of it, especially now that we're like 3 years in and we still have topics, we still have ideas, but every week we wrap up the episode and we go, what do we do next week? And like, we don't know, sometimes Star Wars is coming out and then we have our end of the year episode followed by our other end of the year episode. And then we take a break. Sometimes we know a couple weeks ahead, but most weeks, like we're going to wrap, tonight. And when we stop recording, the first question is, what do we do next week? And that's
we'll
normal.
Scroll down to the end of the document and we're going to be like, okay, which one of these looks good?
Yes, that's exactly what we sound like. But
it is.
I mean, I've basically found, and this is why it's a weekly podcast, like all of the projects I've done that have lasted a long time and I'm really proud of, and I'm happy that I had done them over the long term, I did on at least a weekly basis. Anything longer than that between working on it, and you lose so much momentum. And I don't know, have you found that same kind of timing?
Yeah, if I try to do everything on a 2 week or a month basis, it's just not going to work. It's not a habit at that point. The follow through and consistency, like you said, is by far the most important. You can take a really, really bad idea and somebody is going to like it because you have a lot of that bad idea out there and they eventually see it. That one of the things that my supervisor told me that whenever he hired me was because I had been blogging regularly since 2008, that being able to do it is not easy. It's like I'd said, I think last week, where it was simply putting your butt in the chair. The fact that I knew that writing for a living was not glamorous, that it is putting your butt in a chair and doing it regularly and being consistent is work. And so if you can sit down and actually do your project, then you're ahead of 99% of other people.
Yeah, and when we were talking about this last week, you said do it really seriously for 30 days. And I thought that was pretty good advice. The thing that I would want to add to it is, even if you don't continue after those 30 days, or even if like you can't get the consistency after 30 days, or you aren't feeling it, at the very least, if you do it seriously for a month, you're going to learn so much from it. And you're going to take that into the next project. Even if the next project is not even like tangentially related, even if it's a completely new thing, you're going to learn so much about your process and what works or what didn't work, or like you're going to come out of it with ideas because of how the last 30 days went. So I thought that was a good piece of advice that you said, is to just like give it a month.
It's something that it's not going to hurt you any. That's something that I've learned in a lot of these projects, because I start and stop things all the time, much to my wife's annoyance. But it's something that if you can do it over a month, you see it beyond that golden, this is beautiful and new and exciting period. It's kind of that, it's like a relationship, really, where you know that it's going to be the passion is going to fade, and you're going to get into that companionship and friendship mode as you go on. And for some people, that makes you break up, and for some people, that makes you stop doing whatever project it is that you started. But if you still like it, once the new and shiny is worn off of it, then there's a good chance that it's a project that you can stick with for the long term.
Yeah. So I guess to wrap up the subject, go get started. I mean, that's the thing, right? Like, try it. And also, I would love to hear, like, if any of you are doing something every week and we don't know about it, like, if you have long-term projects that you're working on, or a podcast that you haven't told me about yet, you probably should, because I'll listen to it, all that kind of thing. Like, let us know. I mean, that's what we like in the community, is like, I would love to know other creative things that people are doing. I think you would too.
Oh, I absolutely do. I love it when I'm on Slack and I see somebody. I think it was Bama Shocks who started his gaming podcast recently. And Lyle has a podcast that he does and just talks about the podcasting pain of people getting started. And it's like, I love hearing about stuff like this. I really, really love having discussions like that.
Cool. Well, speaking of podcasts, we should talk about the network. I listened to all of them this week because we're recording at our normal time. Katie and Chelsea had the week off, but they have a great back catalog. You can always listen to their thoughts on a wide variety of geeky subjects. It's always a good listen. Dive into their back catalog. Geektitude this week. So Joe and Ray talked all about movie trailers, and kind of we're reviewing a bunch of the recent movie trailers over the last like 6 months or so. It was really fascinating to kind of hear them break it down like trailer by trailer and talk what they're excited about and what works for them in a trailer and what doesn't. And then Rob on the Comic Box did like 3 topics this week, which was kind of cool. He did an Infinity War trailer breakdown, like shot by shot, which I thought that was super interesting. I got a lot out of that I didn't catch by watching it myself. He talked about Irish superheroes just for St. Patrick's Day. And then he gave his impressions of like the first half of Jessica Jones. So listen to all the shows on the network. They're great. The other thing this week is we have kind of a double shout out to the community, but I was going to mention, so Capsule J, who is on Reddit. He's one of our mods on Reddit. He does a great job. And then on Twitter too, I talk to him all the time. But he is trying to pick like a promising looking, he said like less than 15 episode anime series to have a weekly chat about on the subreddit probably, and probably elsewhere online too, Twitter and stuff. But he's going to put up a poll sometime in the next week or two, and he's looking to get like ballot suggestions. So any of you who are anime fans out there who haven't been to the subreddit ever, you can go to reddit.com/r/geek2geekcast. He is looking for ideas. So if you guys want something in the poll, or if you have thoughts about it or anything about the way to structure it, let Capsule J know, and he is going to put that together. So that'll be very interesting to see. I hope that it comes together well. And then I think it's starting sometime in like early April-ish, but send suggestions his way. And then the other thing that I saw you just added also involved him, so he gets a double shout out this week.
Yeah, so this week I really have to give a shout out, because this weekend actually, Capsule J and his wife, Rose 262, they did their very first half marathon and marathon. So I really, really wanted to say how proud I am of them, that Jay did his first half marathon and rocked it, and that Rose did her very first marathon at the Georgia Publix Marathon this past weekend. And I think it's fantastic. I've been seeing them talk a lot about the training that they've gone through, and that is an absolutely huge accomplishment for them. And I wanted everybody who's listening to go give them a pat on the back, because it's that they've put a lot of work into that. So we're proud of you guys.
Sweet. Awesome. With that, it's time for Weekly Geekery, where we share what we've been geeking out about this week. Did you see the 2 movies you have listed here, or are those not out yet?
No, they're not out yet. That was one of the things. I've been geeking out about this all week long. Like, this is my geekery has actually been me prepping for the stuff that I am excited for.
Oh, wow. Okay.
this month has so many movies that I want to see that I'm probably not going to be able to see them all, but thankfully I have Movie Pass. And I mean, just off the top of my head, I've been rereading Ready Player One because I was Atom Tickets. I don't know if you've ever used Atom Tickets, ATOM. They have a thing on right now where if you invite 3 people, you get a $5 movie ticket that it's not that they have to accept. It's not that they have to buy tickets as well. It is literally if you invite 3 people through the app, then they give you a $5 ticket. And it works for 3D. So I grabbed a $5 Ready Player One opening night ticket. And if there's one movie that I want to see in 3D, it's going to be this. Like, I don't like 3D movies, but if I'm going to watch one about virtual reality and being immersed in a different world, I'm going to watch it in 3D. So I've been rereading it as I've run. Like, I'm listening to it while I'm running, and I'm about half an hour from the end as of coming in, like, an hour ago. So it's still super good. Like, I know there's all this hate on the internet. I've seen so much vitriol about Ready Player One from different geek communities, and I still love it. It's something that's fun for me, and I see the flaws in it. I'm an English teacher, of course. I see the flaws in it, but it's fantastic. Like, it just makes me happy. So I'm super excited for the movie to come out. So I've been really prepping myself for it, and I'm so excited for Pacific Rim that I didn't even realize that Pacific Rim came out this weekend, and Pacific Rim 2. And so I
didn't know that
love...
either. For some reason, the spring this year is crazy for movies. Like, those two, and then we have Infinity War out next month, and then Solo is out right after that. Like,
yep. And Tomb Raider came out this past weekend, and I want to see Tomb Raider, but I've heard it's not very good. And so we're going to see it eventually. But I don't know, like, Jennifer and I have been talking about this with movies, that they really are packing it just to the brim this spring and summer. And it's because of the way that movie studios are pushing out the movies that used to, if a movie came out in February, you knew it was going to be kind of bad, because that was when they put out the movies that weren't Oscar bait. They were ready, but they weren't releasing them in December because they weren't Oscar bait. So, and they're definitely not summer blockbusters. So, but spring still had enough movies that they were okay. So January and February are trash movie month, but they're not anymore. You can look at a lot of the movies that have come out, like Annihilation and Black Panther, and see that these are major movies by really high-end creators who are getting critical acclaim. So a lot of it is the way that they're expanding that kind of blockbuster season in the summer and spring to let other quality movies be released and actually not get overlooked. I'm both excited about it and very wary of it. And that was me geeking out about the movie industry. And also, Jennifer and I discovered a new Netflix show called Nailed It. Have you heard of this?
No, I had no idea what this was on your list. I was curious.
Okay, so it's a cooking show, and I know that you love cooking shows. I want you to try this when you have an opportunity, because I'm asking you, I'm telling you right now, you need to absolutely make sure you watch the entire first episode. This is not a show that you stop after a few minutes, because you're not going to get it.
How long is this show?
I think it's like 30 minutes. I think the second episode was 33 minutes. So,
sure.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not 100% on what the first one was, but the second was 33, so they're around there. Now, this is a Netflix original cooking show that is based on the idea of doing Pinterest fails, where you see these people who... Have you ever seen the Nailed It blog?
Yeah.
Or stuff like that, where it's like, here's this beautiful thing from Pinterest, and then you see this person who tries, like, nailed it. Well, that's what this cooking show is. They get ordinary people who aren't chefs, who just are kind of moderately passable bakers, and they put them in a kitchen, and they have these competitions, and they see how well they can recreate these things done by these professional chefs. And it took us about halfway through the first episode before we realized, because I hated it at first, that it was kind of like Serial kind of like S-Town for me, where I started out and I really didn't like it. And I'm sitting there watching, I'm like, I don't think I can do this. And then it clicked. Like everything kind of came together on how weird it was going to be, that it's really a parody food show, the way that they handle everything about it, that they are not taking themselves seriously. That this is a cooking show that is the exact opposite of Chopped or Cutthroat Kitchen, that they know what they're doing is silly. It's not serious, and they have a lot of fun with it. Like in I'm not even going to say that, but there is when you get to the main event in the first episode, they basically give the person who did the worst in the first one, who just completely failed, they give them an extra bonus of to give them a fighting chance in the last one. So, and this is a competition for $10,000. Like the winner does get 10 grand for making the best of these, but it's fun because it's like a parody cooking show, and it's something that I had to watch it to learn that it was a parody. That at first when you're watching, it's like, this is the worst cooking show I've ever seen. What's wrong with these people? And then you get through the entire episode, it's like, oh, I see what they're doing. I see they're leaning into this. And you know how I like when something leans into what it is? It's like they really leaned in on Nailed It. So I cannot wait to watch more.
Cool. Okay, I'll add it to my list. I'll check it out. This week I watched a couple movies. I watched Jumanji: Welcome to the Jungle, and it was it was like exactly what I expected it to be, and it was perfect for the time. Like, if
yes,
I wanted to shut my brain off and just enjoy it for what it was. I was not expecting like high cinema or anything, and I started it, and my wife was like, "Yeah, I need to watch this too." So we just watched it together, and we had a lot of fun with it. I'm gonna like hold on to it. Like I'll probably watch it again at some point, but not for a while. But it's the kind of movie where you just shut your brain off and enjoy it for what it is.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It succeeds exceedingly well at being it. Like they set out with a vision and they accomplished it. It may be one of the most successful movies I've ever seen, simply in terms of execution. It's like, hey guys, let's make this movie, and the outcome is exactly what was that vision was.
Yes.
And it's still ranking in money. Like it's still in theaters making money right now too. Like it's bringing in money.
That's crazy.
Still.
Yeah,
it's nuts.
I also watched Black Panther, and it was really good. Yay! I don't think I have much to add beyond what you've said. I mean, I really liked that it was more self-contained than most of the MCU movies. I think that served it well. And then I really like seeing movies that are based in another culture. Like at this point, and I've talked about this before, like, I'm a straight white male and I live in suburbia. Like, what do I don't need to see people like me on screen. I see that all day, every day. And that's kind of boring at this point.
Yeah.
Like, that's the kind of movie that's been made for the whole entire history of movies. I really like seeing movies with main characters that don't look like me. Like, I loved this movie and the fact that it was based around Africa and African culture, and it was a made up culture, but it was a conglomeration of a bunch of thoughts from Africa, and it was so nice to see a movie that was like based on not straight white male suburbia, which again, I'm kind of bored of that at this point. Just like, I love that we got a female lead in the current Star Wars trilogy. Like, that's great. Mm-hmm. Like, we already had Luke Skywalker. He was fantastic at the time, but like, we need more perspectives, and like, I enjoy movies that come from other perspectives. So those two things I thought were really cool. And then just the fact that their technology was so awesome. I didn't think it was a sci-fi film. I know a lot of people said that it was, but I really like how that technology, I'm sure, is going to tie in so much to Infinity War, just because they're more advanced than the rest of the world, and they're finally sharing with the rest of the world. So that was cool. I did watch the Infinity War trailer, the second one that came out in the last week, and then I rewatched it after Black Panther, and I'm really excited for that movie. Did you see the newest one?
This is the very first trailer for Infinity War that has me excited about it.
Yes,
until then, I mean, I've been really trepidatious that I know it's going to be an enjoyable movie while I'm watching it, but I'm also afraid it's going to be kind of a hot mess. And this is the first one that doesn't feel like a hot mess in the trailer. And I'm really, this one gives me a lot of hope that the Russo brothers are doing it right.
Yeah, and I wonder what's going on with Hawkeye and with Ant-Man, because they're conspicuously absent And that
And man,
makes me think
everybody is talking about that.
yeah, they probably are playing an important role, or they're very, very, very small roles in the movie. It's kind of either or. I don't see it being anything else. But anyway, I'm excited for Infinity War. I have my tickets already, and supposedly it's breaking all records for ticket pre-sales, which is something that they track these days. Ever since the last couple years, they started tracking it. And then the new Fantastic Beasts trailer came out this week too. Did you see that one?
Really? No, I didn't know about that. I haven't seen a thing about it. That
Okay.
has completely abandoned me.
The first one
Not worth
I
it.
thought was all right, but I don't know. I didn't see
I
it
still
in
haven't
theaters
seen it.
because like I wasn't that interested, and it came out at home, and my wife had seen it in theaters and she wanted to watch it again, so I watched it with her, and it was
Right.
basically what I thought it was. I mean, it didn't do a whole lot. I mean, it showed a little bit about like wizarding in America, but it was more of a tone piece and a period piece than anything else. This one looks like it actually has plot, which is what's interesting. Whereas the last one, it had a very thin, very weak plot, and it went on way too long for the amount of story that it had to tell. This is actually getting into Dumbledore and Grindelwald and some of the stuff that we know from the Deathly Hallows. And then there's a tease right at the end of the trailer. You can see some shapes that it makes in the smoke near the end, and they are the Deathly Hallows.
Yep.
So I think we're finally going to get it like into some substance, and it'll be through Scamander's point of view, which is fine as long as there's more to it than there was in that first movie, because that first movie really felt weak to me. It just felt like special effects and a money grab because Harry Potter,
Right.
Yeah.
And that's actually why I haven't seen it. I've heard really good things about it, that if you like Harry Potter, that you're going to like this movie, and that it's not bad, but it's been something that I've been completely disinterested in, that I've told you I hate Eddie Redmayne's face anyway, but it's like, it's not even that. It's that Jennifer's a bigger Harry Potter fan than I am, and even she hasn't seen it. Like, she hasn't wanted to. It's just it's there, and we will eventually oh, that's there, let's watch it, kind of thing. Like I said, I didn't even know this trailer was out. Somehow I had completely missed it.
Well, it looks much more interesting than the first one. And then I played a bunch of games this week. I did more Into the Breach, and I got a bunch more squads unlocked. I played Kirby Star Allies since it came out, so my daughter and I were playing that together. I did more Fortnite. I don't think I have a ton of new thoughts around it, except that I'm still playing it. And I think this is the week I finally convinced you of how big it is. Would you say so?
I don't get it. Yeah, I mean, I don't understand. And it's not even because I don't like it. It's not because I can see things outside of my own perspective.
No, but I sent you that article about the guy who makes did you say $500,000 a month on streaming for Fortnite?
Yeah, I wanna die.
Yeah, and then
what have I done with my life?
It is the number one app on all of these app stores across the world on iOS and Android, and it isn't even out yet. It is in pre-release. It's a lottery that you enter your email into, and then you can maybe get it. And somehow it's still the number one app everywhere. And I sent you a bunch of articles over the last week to just show you. And I think it finally sunk in how huge this game is.
And I truly don't understand. And it's I don't understand how it happened. It's not that I don't understand that it happened, because I do see the appeal in this. But all of a sudden, it just hit that it's been out, the single player mode, or the save the world mode, for a while, and everybody's like, and then Battle Royale was out for a while, and it was in season 2, I think, wasn't it? When everything got...
The Battle Royale is in season 3, and each season is about 10 weeks. So it's been out for 25 weeks now, and it just seems to have hit the mainstream in the last month, which is kind of crazy.
You had a chart that was basically, was it the number of streams and channels that it was? I can't remember exactly what it was, views versus Minecraft.
No,
where you really do see...
What you can do on Google is you can look at Google Trends, which I do all the time for
Google
my job.
Trends, that's it.
And
okay.
If you look at Google Trends, it doesn't give you hard numbers, but it gives you relative things. So you can stack up any 2 search terms or 2 topics against each other, and with a maximum rating of 100, and you can see over time how they stack up. And in the last month, Fortnite has overtaken Minecraft. In terms of, it's kind of a blend of topic and people talking about it and searches and stuff. It's Google Trends data. But Fortnite is above Minecraft now. And it's just that's crazy.
Like, it's all nuts. There was one where you saw the popularity and like search terms for it, where it's level at a very low level, and it's plateauing basically, and then all of a sudden it's not even a gradual like upturn, it is a cliff. Like, all of a sudden it just spikes up and continues that way, where I don't understand what precipitated that, what predicated that. It's just, I don't. I want to know from a completely academic standpoint why this blew up. That a sociological, and like, I need to know what clicked with people immediately like that. Like, what made this like mass hysteria? It's not hysteria. There's this mass love that happened all at once. Like, honestly, I want to know.
Like, being in it from near the end of season 2 until now, I honestly think that it is the rate that they are iterating on this project, because most of the mainstream gaming press and all of the like not even mainstream gaming press that I follow, and I follow a lot of gaming press and journalists, nobody's really talking about Fortnite except to say it's so big and we don't get it. And the thing is, almost all of them checked out the Save the World mode when they had like, I don't know, they were brought out to an event, or it launched, or it soft launched, whatever, like a year ago. And then all of them had checked out Battle Royale right when it came out. But if you look at what Battle Royale was when it came out versus where it is now, it's so different. And like, I can't overemphasize how much they iterate on this game every single week. Like, there are patches that come out, there are new modes that get patched in temporarily. There are like sometimes massive changes to the game, but every time it makes it better overall. And there's always something to go back to that's something new, because they're so rapidly iterating on it in a way that I've never seen any company do before. Like, this is what, in my mind, this is what games as a service should be. It shouldn't be one giant content drop once every 6 months that you then devour over the course of a week, and then you feel like you have nothing to do again. This is a slow drip that's constantly improving, but it's paying off. Like, there's no arguing that it's paying off.
That's really interesting to me, because in some places, like for work, for me, we've been trying to have weekly releases on stuff, and I know it's different from gaming, but we've had people say that we're releasing stuff too quickly for them to really get a handle on it, which is something that I could see in gaming as well. Like, you keep on putting this stuff out before I even get a handle on what changed last week. But where I know a lot of people like weekly and daily stuff a lot more than I do too, but I understand I may feel overwhelmed if they were consistently putting stuff in.
But it's not like a World of Warcraft expansion every week, right? It's small changes. So it's like a couple weeks ago, they added the hunting rifle, which is basically a sniper rifle with no scope. And then like a week ago, they added C4, which drastically changed how you could approach destroying people's buildings. And then they made a couple small tweaks to the rate that you harvest materials at. So you can't quite get as many as you used to. And it kind of changed some of the fort building. And then they made a little change where they took out smoke grenades because not enough people were using them. Like, it's no one giant thing, but it is still more rapidly iterating than any other game that I've ever seen, I think.
Okay, that makes sense. That I can totally see that being a very, very big draw.
Yeah, it's really cool. So I guess I did have some thoughts about Fortnite. Anyway, I also played a few different iOS games. Well, I tried a bunch, but again, I don't mention the ones not worth your time. Meteorfall is interesting if you like deck building games, because the interface is the same as Reigns, where you just swipe left or right. And that's the entire interface of the game, except it's a deck building game. So it's like you swipe one way if you want to fight a monster, or the other way if you want to rest, and then swipe this way to go find this treasure, or that way to, it's like, it's all like 50-50 decisions, one of two choices.
Okay.
And so you can just sit there and rapidly play through this deck building game on your phone. And it's kind of a dungeon crawly deck building game. There's different classes to it. It's not as good as something like Slay the Spire. Like, that game is fantastic, but it's worthwhile. I think it's only a couple bucks. It might actually be free. Either way, I've been having fun with Meteorfall. So if that kind of thing sounds like something you're into, check that out. And then I also tried Armello and Tokaido, which Armello is a purely digital board game that I talked about a long time ago because I own it on PC, and it just came out on iOS this week. And then Tokaido is a board game that just got released on digital, and I had never played it, but I think I watched like a tabletop of it or something. That sounds right. And it's basically you're competing to try to have the best vacation. It's a really interesting game. And playing these two like back to back and in the same week, I'm starting to realize how important it is to have fast AI options in mobile games. Like I've set this up in Fire Emblem Heroes too, which I'm still playing every day, but like I have the AI turn like basically doing almost no animations and moving as fast as it possibly can. So it happens almost instantly. And I turned up all the settings that I could find in Tokaido to do the same thing. And that took the game from a maybe I'll play this sometimes to I'm actually playing Tokaido almost every day because it has fast AI. And Armello was just not optimized for mobile. And like maybe if you have a better device than I'm on, it's fine. But it is so brutally slow that it's almost unplayable. And it's not necessarily a technical thing. It's more of a pacing thing. Like I just want it to move faster and it's just not. So that's one of those things that I'm going to keep an eye on as I move forward. I really, really want more options to turn up the speed of turns and to turn off animations and to make AI faster so that I can rapidly play games on my phone.
Yeah. I mean, I understand that playing mobile games, it has to be fast for me. That if something takes a long time, then there's no way that I'm going to play it on a cell phone because I'm out somewhere. I play them in waiting rooms or in a car or something like that, and it's not going to be. I'm not going to get invested in something that takes a long time. It's one of the reasons that I stopped playing Hero Academy 2 is because the games would take a really long time. And it's why I didn't do a lot of Hearthstone because I may not be able to continue a game because even though they're quick, it's sometimes you can't do it on a phone.
Yeah, exactly. And then the last thing I played this week, I finally got around to Yakuza 0, and I'm kind of surprised. I mean, I told you how 6 surprised me and hooked me. Right. And then everybody told me, well, while you're waiting, try Yakuza 0 because it's probably the best onboarding point for the series. And I didn't click with it. Like I gave it a real try this time. The last time when I talked about it in the fall, I just missed it after like 20 minutes, maybe not even that much. This time I put like 4 or 5 hours into it because I picked it up for, and I think I mentioned this last week, but I pre-ordered 6 and there was a bundle where you could pay $10 more and get a full copy of 0. So I did that. And I put like 5 hours in. I mean, it's set in the 80s instead of modern day, which isn't my favorite aesthetic, but I was willing to work with it. But something about like it's a much more straightforward story. Whereas before I was talking about like trying to figure out all the drama and like all of this history behind it, you know, this intricate like soap opera. And this time it felt like just a straightforward, like you're a young guy and you just have been in the Yakuza for no time at all. And it's like a Yakuza crime lord story. And there's not much more to it. And there are elements that are a little over the top, but it's not like over the top enough. Do you know what I mean? Like it didn't take it far enough. And part of it, I think, is also that like the engine just doesn't, it's not the same engine. I didn't realize this until after I played it for a while, but I was like, this game just doesn't feel as good. And there's not as much interesting stuff around. It's not as fun to like walk around the world and explore. And I couldn't put my finger on why. And then as I was reading some of these early impressions of Yakuza 6, they're all mentioning how this new engine is great. And I was like, all the other Yakuza games were made on an old engine, and that's what 0 is on. So apparently that really shows, even though I couldn't quite put my finger on it. I knew there was something there. So anyway, in the end, I don't think 0 is for me, even though a lot of people that said that it's the best place to get onboarded into the series. I think 6 might be. I think if you've waited as long as I have to try to get into Yakuza, try it on this new engine because it's oddly compelling in a way that was really fun for me. So I'm putting 0 down and I'm just going to wait because 6 is out in a couple weeks here.
And you gave it a real shot. You didn't just go in and do your, oh no, this isn't going to work, send it back to Gamefly thing. You putting in 5 hours in something and you know it's not going to work, that's not something that you're just passing it off and just being like, I don't care. like I do a lot. That's it. You did good. You did good, kid. No, I think that's something where like so many people give recommendations like that, and it's like I often feel bad because they'll give me recommendations and I try it, but I keep playing for a longer period of time because at first I don't get what they get on it, and then I keep playing it and I still don't get it, and that's when I know it's not for me. But sometimes I'm like, oh yeah, this is why this game is awesome, and I continue on beyond that. So
yeah, so at this point, I'm unreasonably excited for Yakuza 6. Not like Game of the Year or like a Final Fantasy or a Persona game coming out, but like it's really weird, and I want to know what happens next, and I got cut off in the middle of it because they took away my demo that was not a demo, and I don't know why I'm suddenly excited for this game, but I am. So I'm gonna look forward to that. In the meantime, if you guys are looking for stuff to play, go play Into the Breach. It's still amazing, and like I said, I put a ton of hours into it this week. And Fortnite's good stuff.
And speaking of mobile games, while we were on the topic, I didn't get to say this earlier. I'd forgotten that you had mentioned Florence a week or two ago.
Oh yeah,
and it's now out on Android. That I saw that I'd put in my email or whatever to sign up for when it was released, and it's finally out on there with the mini games and brushing your teeth and stuff. And I haven't picked it up yet. It's basically on my wish list on my queue because, like I had said, Jennifer and I are trying to spend less time on our phones, and so I was like, with something like that, it will make me. I know I'm going to get invested and spend time on it. But for those of you who are on Android hearing about Florence a few weeks ago, if that sounded interesting to you, then it is out on Android now because it was taking a little longer on the port.
Well, and it's only a couple hours. It's not a long game, and you're not going to go back to it.
I thought it was longer than that. I really did. I was thinking it was like 5 or 6 hours or longer.
No, it was like 2 maybe. It's short. It's only a couple bucks, but it's like reading a long comic, like a few issues of a comic back to back. Like, you should get it and just play it. It'll take you all of part of a day, not even.
Okay, that was why I didn't, because I thought it was way longer and that I was going to be like investing a lot of time in it. No, that'll be fine because I think it's $3 on Android.
No, it's like a one-sitting game, story,
cool.
Movie, interactive thing. But just do it in one sitting. That's the best way anyway. That's about it for this week. You can write to us with comments, suggestions, or feedback. Our email address, as always, is geek2geekcast@gmail.com, or reach us on Twitter @geek2geekcast. We have longer discussion threads on the subreddit at reddit.com/r/geek2geekcast.
And remember, we have the poll up for Capsule J's Anime Watch, so go to Reddit and vote in that. And we're also on Slack, so if you want to talk about anything with us in real time, go to slack.geek2geekcast.com for your invite. And we are also part of a podcast network, so you can head over to geek2geekcast.com to see all of our shows.
I blog sometimes at agreenmushroom.com, and you can find me at grnmushroom. That's green mushroom without the E's on Twitter.
And I'm on Twitter as @ProfessorBeej. That's Beej with 2 E's. And I'm now online at runningshoes.tv.
We've been Void and Beej with your Geek to Geek podcast. That'll do it for this week. See you next week, geeks.
Bye, geeks.
Comics. Hey everyone, Rob here, your friendly neighborhood comic geek, inviting you to join me and my rotating cast of co-hosts each week on The Comic Box, where we tell you everything you need to know to become a world-class comic book geek. So join us for The Comic Box each week right here on the Geek to Geek Podcast Network.
Hi everyone, I'm Katie.
And I'm Chelsea, and we are the hosts of Tea Time with Katie and Chelsea. We are two best friends who love pop culture and talking about pretty much whatever we want. Katie!
Yes?
Stop thinking about Zac Efron and tell our future listeners what some of our latest episodes have been about.
Well, we've talked about Zac Efron.
No, get it together, Katie.
Fine. We've talked about fan fiction, classical literature adaptations, favorite TV couples, and so much more. So grab your cup of tea or whatever your drink of choice is and download our podcast today.
Hi, my name is Joe Hogan, and I'm a geek. And if you're currently listening to this, there's a good chance you're a geek too. So check out my podcast, Geektitude. Each week, I talk with somebody about their geek aptitude. Sometimes I talk to people in a geeky profession. Sometimes it's someone doing something really cool with their geekiness. Often it's another geeky podcaster. But it's always someone who wants to share their inner geek. So join me each week as we come together to geek out about all the geeky stuff we love. And remember, this week, keep it geek.